Today we have Pastor Stephen Kidd from Matthew's Table right here in Owensboro to talk to us about his journey. And what's so cool is Joe and him were talking off air is he's the only alumni that is a pastor. Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning.
And I've known Stephen for quite a while. His wife Pam and I worked together at Burns Middle School, became quite close, yard selling buddies, and she is one of my very near and dear friends. And tell us about your journey and how you got to Friends of Sinners here in Owensboro, because you're not from here.
Yeah, so my story, I guess, would start, I was born in Chicago, Illinois, to obviously my mother, father, both who were drug addicts, alcoholics. My mom, actually, due to drug addiction, passed away when I was 7. My brother was 10 at that time. Not long after that, my father, who was from Eastern Kentucky, decided that Chicago wasn't for him, and so we moved back. He remarried soon after that, and I guess just because my mother, drug addict, alcoholic, my father, alcoholic, who was kind of a functional alcoholic, though. He was a hard worker, did his thing, but loved to drink. And so it was kind of inevitable that I was going to end up going down that road, right? So I started probably around 13, drinking, using drugs, those types of things. And it, honestly, I guess, you know, a lot of people will have all these excuses on why they did those things. But for me, it was like, for whatever reason, I enjoyed it. Like, it was no responsibility, didn't have to worry about anything. But it was all the consequences that came. So to kind of make a long story short, from 13 to about 22, 23, a lot of trouble, you know, in and out of jails.
How many times were you put in jail and convicted? And I know it's like, is it 32 times?
Yeah.
He's like, let's not say that, but I think that's a good part of your story.
No, I mean, 36 different felony convictions.
Oh my gosh.
From the time I was 18 until 24.
Wow.
So before I was 17 or 18, I think it was 4 DUIs, 5 DUIs, something like that. So I was just one of those kids that, you know, I always got caught, right? So I feel like that was God, though, really working early on in my life, because every time I would try to run, try to do those things, I would end up, you know, in trouble. So I, for the last and final time, I was arrested, and I think I was 21, 22, something like that, in a small jail in Eastern Kentucky, because I was an idiot, did a lot of dumb things, ended up getting shipped from Round County Detention Center all the way on the other side of the state in Davis County, Kentucky. So almost 4 hours away. So that's kind of where, or that's how I got here. So it went from, you know, just jail to that jail, being here, and had really no intention, honestly, of changing. And right towards the end of my sentence, I'd been in there for almost 3 years, God just moved. And it was really, it was unexplainable, because I had no intention of wanting to follow Christ.
And so how did you get here to Friends of Sinners?
Yeah, so whenever you're in there, you're either going to make probation, or you're going to serve out your sentence, or you're going to make parole. So I was eligible for parole. So I had to put in a home placement. Well, I knew that if I went back home, I was probably going to end up in the same shape that I was in there. So I made the decision to put in my home placement to Friends of Sinners, because it was a program that really at that time it hadn't started yet when I was in jail. It was being talked about, and it was going to be a program, but it hadn't really started yet. So thankfully I was one of the first few guys that actually got to go into the program in 2009, and loved it, went through the program, graduated the program, worked there for almost a year and a half after I graduated, and still very much involved with the guys that are there and do things. So
yeah, because you're the pastor, one of the pastors at Matthew's Table here in town, where we go to church, and it's a new church. It's been around for about a year and a half.
Yep.
And so I just think it's awesome, because I've seen you grow and change your life. And your brother went through Friends of Sinners as well, and he now works for Friends of Sinners as well, and married a young lady that went through Friends of Sinners herself. And I've seen the change in their lives, and it's so awesome. And so that's what we're asking you all to do today, is think about that, and we're sharing with you the success stories because we want you to know what the mission is doing. So I'm going to put the information for the Less is More project up on Facebook.